Hello, this is NAMI Virginia and Virginia Family Network, and this is the panel of Back to School for the 2000-2001 school year. We are here as parents and school teachers to talk about what this year is going to look like for our kiddos going back. My name is Nicole Anjum, and I am the program assistant at Virginia Family Network. And I am joined by four lovely mothers and teachers tonight, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell everyone where they're from and a little bit about what school is looking like for them this year. Christy, did you want to go first?
That'll work. I'm Christy Edwards, and I am from Carroll County, which is the southwest. School started back this year for Carroll County. We opened up as both in-person and virtual. You got to choose. We have A Day, which is Monday, Tuesday, and B Day, which is Thursday, Friday. Transportation, they split, like one half of the county goes on A Day. Well, one half of the school, that school district goes A Day, and the other part of the school goes on B Day. That way the buses wasn't so crowded, and you still get to bring your kids and pick them up, but it's just different times now that they get released and get to come in. In school changing their times, the teachers now have to be there a little earlier and stay a little later, but they compensated it by Wednesday. The student goes on Wednesday, only teachers, and they only work from 9 till 12. Here, the first thing you have to do is have a temperature check, and if you stay longer than just a few minutes, you a series of questions for COVID. And you got to make sure that your mask is on. Some tips for going back to school in person: make sure you keep your distance. Make sure that try to limit touching other stuff that somebody else has touched. Keep a bottle of hand sanitizer with you. Try to limit any don't really understand virtual, especially down our way. So make sure you ask for help. Sure that I've used teachers, other parents, anything that I could find. I mean, NAMI, anything that might be. Pinterest, make sure for scheduling. Pinterest has a lot of scheduling. If you're doing virtual, make sure you set out time doing virtual. Make sure you got a schedule, because you will forget some of the work.
All right, thank you, Christy. Bianca, do you want to let us know about what schools looks like for you and your children?
Sure. My name is Bianca Martin, and I'm from Fairfax County. I live in Alexandria City. And what my understanding is that we are full-time back to school virtually in Fairfax County. However, based on the needs of my child and his special education needs, we as a family decided that in-person school would be more beneficial to him. And so we enrolled him into a private school that was doing back to school in person, which he started Monday, this past Monday, which was August 24th. And he loves it. He comes home every day and he's extremely excited about having some kind of social interaction with other people. As a reminder, since COVID, we've been in this home together for 6 months. So to have someone else to look at and also have education and be interactive socially with other people have been beneficial to his mental health as well as mine. So I did not think that my son would be capable of doing virtual full time. And that was why we decided to go enroll him into a private school. That's Monday through Friday, 8:15 to 3:30 every day in person. They are taking precautions, and they have to follow the CDC guidelines, wearing a mask going into the school, wearing a mask throughout the school, unless they're in their classroom, which is they have plexiglass protection around their glass or around their desk, excuse me. And if the teacher comes up to do like individualized education and teaching, she has to wear a mask. And they're constantly washing their hands after and before certain subjects, as also sanitizing their hands sanitizing everything, not only washing, but cleaning the desks and everything people touch. So that's where we are right now. That's the only way that the school was going to be open for them to be able to follow these guidelines.
Right. All right. And Cindy, let's hear about what your family's back to school is like.
I'm Cindy Maurice. I have a son who's a senior this year, our youngest son. We live in Rafine in Augusta County in the Shenandoah Valley, so the western part of Virginia. School for us has started full-time on August 12th. So we've been in for a couple of weeks. The other schools in our area, Augusta County is going a hybrid. The two cities here, Stanton and Waynesboro, are right now all virtual. My son goes to a private day placement in another district. Transportation for him, because of his medical conditions, is private driver, so specialized in his IEP, and he cannot have another student ride with him. So we did have to get a letter from his developmental pediatrician stating that concern for the school to be able to do that for us. And so far it's been okay. He does have some issues wearing a mask. The school provided a face shield for him, and that was our compromise. He likes a t-shirt gaiter that I made, but he also wears the face shield. The other schools in our area will start this coming week, the 1st. And let's see. I've lost my questions here. Whoop. Dropped it off.
Do you have tips for going back to school?
For tips for going back to school, yes, indeed. NAMI. I can't say enough about them. We've had some pretty significant challenges this summer for my younger son. He and my two middle kids were adopted from social services years ago, and we had to get some extra counseling for him. And we've also lost my older son at the end of June, tragically and quite unexpectedly. So Daniel's had some issues handling these two big events. So counseling is every week. We did utilize the folks from the Community Services Board who have put us in touch with an organization called REACH, and it's through the Horizon Behavioral Health. They're excellent folks. Highly recommend them. I know for us specifically, we've seen some pretty significant regression in some of Daniel's abilities. Time management, nutrition, of all things, has been a big one for him. Depression. So definitely utilize behavioral health counseling. Other tips for going to school: if one thing doesn't work, like for us, they wanted him to wear a full mask. And because of his sensory disorder, that was not an option. He was just not into that. But we were able to work with the school to find an alternative. So if something doesn't work, something else will. It's just finding what will work for you and your family.
Thank you. And Davina, I know you also come to us tonight with the teacher perspective too. So if you want to give us a little bit about what's going on.
I am a teacher, special education teacher, and I teach at a special education school in Lynchburg. So I live near Charlottesville, so it's Central Virginia area. And for me, I come to NAMI because I have a child or a grown man. So that's how I got involved with NAMI. And all grown up on their own. But for me as a teacher in special ed land here, and that's what I call it, special ed land, I've been doing it for 20 years, we are different than a regular school, in my school specifically. So where the district that I'm in, they are virtual, we're not. I have kids coming into my classroom and if they choose it. So we're doing a hybrid where everybody's out on one day of the week and the other 4 days of the week. If they're in school, they come into us. And if not, they're doing virtual, then they're virtually, and we teach them virtually. So most of us teachers have in-class and virtual students at the same time. And I have assistants that help me. And in our classrooms, we have assistants because we are a special ed school. It's different. It's a new learning curve for all of us. When you add mental health pieces or other pieces to it, it's scary for everybody. But we are doing everything in our room, in our school. You get off the bus, you have to be scanned to make sure you don't have a temperature. You come into the building, everybody wears a mask. All staff are scanned. Parents aren't allowed in the building only to a certain point because we don't want to bring anything else in. Our kids for transportation, they are brought by parents and buses. And trying to get special education students to wear a mask is quite interesting due to sensory issues. That's, for one of the tips for people that aren't back in school yet is please practice. The more you practice at home, you can at least take it off after 10 minutes. If you practice a little bit longer and a little bit longer, the teaching of a mask and how to wear one is another one, because our kids really need the practice to be able to learn how to do this, or not to suck in the mask because they're bored and chewing on it. That those things happen and we don't think about it till you see it. And it's like, okay, we now need to have many masks. Some of us are wearing shields so that kids can see us even with a mask. Some of us are doing a lot of, we want to be there. We do. We teachers want to be there. We want our kids. We miss our kids. It's been 6 months. I know I miss my kids and it's good to see them, but it is a scary time as well. And they sense it. They may not understand it, but they do sense that something's up and that they've been home for so long in the same house. So what I would recommend for that is reading social stories. You can find those all over the internet under autism organizations. There's a ton of social stories, and we've been reading those of how to wear a mask. You know, why does my teacher look so funny? And it is, to them, they're like, who is it? And it took a while to figure out who is that, because they're used to us without a mask. I'm trying to figure out who you are and who the assistants are. And then it's like, look, it's me. Listen to my voice. It's me. You can see it's me. And then they're very happy and they're like, yes, I'm back in a familiar place. I know these people. This is good. Our school time's the same. We're a special education school, so we are a much, much, much smaller school. And the transportation's brought in from the various counties that our kids come from, wearing masks and trying to do their thing. Let's see, I'm looking at my questions, sorry. I have my answers down. The tips. Another one is teaching how to wash your hands correctly. It's a sensory thing. Kids and hands and washing and how many times they have to wash their hands. And then being able to use sometimes the hand sanitizer and how to get the pump to work, or that they don't like the smell, because hand sanitizers have a smell that can be an issue for our kids. So practicing all that at home. For tips for virtual learning, the biggest one I have to parents and students, whether they're special ed or not, be kind. Be kind to the people that are trying to teach you, and be kind to the people that are trying to help you, because we're all learning. This is something that's very different from a lot of us teachers, that we've never had to teach through a computer screen. And for me to help you to reach out, I mean, I just want to be my teacher person and reach and show you how to do it. And I can't. We've done this. It's like, oh, it's not working. So we're all learning. Or technology, where the internet goes in and out, and they stop and they freeze, or they've pushed the wrong button, or I've pushed the wrong button. So that's the biggest one, is we're going to get through it. We just have to, whatever, it's new. We're all trying. And the kids get very frustrated when I'm trying to explain something and they don't understand what I'm trying to explain. Or the parents are getting frustrated because we can't get the darn laptop to work. It's all, you know, the technical stuff like that is a little rough. But I wouldn't change it. We're all doing the best we can. And the positive changes are getting to know some of our parents even better, because we see them on the screen and how they're trying to do it and how we're trying to do it to help our kids. And I would recommend NAMI as well, and I have, for, you know, if you have questions, especially with the frustration level. We know that people are having more problems with this mental health wise, that may or may not have had as big issues in the beginning, and now it is, because it's been so long. So hopefully those are some of the questions.
Thank you. So I had said before that my kids are also going to be going to school. The schools here in Colonial Heights, where I live, are going back on a hybrid schedule. So they could either choose to be in school or they could choose to be completely virtual. My daughter is a senior this year and has decided she has to be in the school and she has to do all the senior things, and just, that was her big reason. And then the more she thought about it, she's like, I learned better in school. She really needs the structure. So both of my kids are going back knowing that structure was going to be a big thing, even though I know the plan is a lot better than it was when we first had to take the kids out of school. Before, it was kind of like an hour a day, and if you finish it, that's okay, and if you don't, that's okay, and that the structure was going to be there. But she's like, nope, I'm going to be home and I'm going to, you know, sleep in or eat all the snacks, or this way at least I know. So that was really her plan. We are close enough for her to walk to school, so she knows that on the way to school, as long as there's no one around her, her mask doesn't necessarily need to be on. As she gets closer to the school and she needs to start social distancing, that she needs to put her mask up. My son's going into 3rd grade, so it's very different for him, and he will have to ride a bus. there was a lot of information sent home for us, and transportation will be, the kids have assigned seats and they will sit all the way against the window, only one student in a seat at a time. So they're still really trying to keep this social distancing. It sounds like all schools are having that wellness check when you get in. So I think a good tip would be getting your kids used to being in that line and having to get their temperature taken or whatever else needs to be asked. It might be more for little kids of getting ready to have your temperature taken every day. And then tips that I have found, I had shared some the other night when Virginia Family Network did our own kind of meetup thing, and it was really just preparing them for the schedule that was coming up. A lot of the schools now have water filler. You can fill your water bottle at the water station instead of using the little mouthpiece. So remember your water bottles. So there was a lot of tips that way, but because we're not there, we just don't know yet.
Nicole, in regards to that, specifically the private school that my son's attending, they put plastic over all of the the water spouts, I guess, where you would actually like go up and push the button and put your mouth on, like near. Right. They're not allowed to use those. So I mean, I think that's a good question to even ask the school if they're going back in person. Will the children have access to something that everybody's putting their hands on? They shouldn't be if that's not following CDC guidelines, if they are. And so that is what the school recommended as well, is to have plenty of water bottles in your book bag. We were asked to bring 2. So it is something that most schools are being, teaching the children that they can't use those water spouts.
And I think that's why, at least where I live, that they made that idea to change to the ones that fill water bottles. High schoolers are only going to school for a very limited time. Like they get there at 8 and they're home before noon. Middle school and elementary are going a little longer. So water bottle is probably going to be needed more. I went and bought my son a water bottle. It has Baby Yoda on it. He loves it, but at least I know he will use it, and he's also probably going to keep better track of it, as opposed to if it was just some plain water bottle. So that's my hope anyway. I could be completely wrong and he'll lose it the first day, but we'll see what happens.
Nicole, one thing I wanted to add from earlier.
Yes.
One of the changes that we have seen now that school has started for us this year, in the past, the students would rotate to the different classes. This year they switched it. The students are staying put in their homeroom class and the teachers are rotating around.
I've heard that for here too. So elementary school, obviously they've never really switched classes anyway, but middle school is where they had started doing it, and they implemented that same thing where the teachers will move and this is your base room.
Right.
I know for lunch, which is the only thing, or not the only thing, but one of the big things that makes me nervous is my son will have to have lunch in school, and they say, lunch will come to them, but
yes,
then little kids still like to share, and you should try this, and I got this, and it's different, and teaching them that you can't share anymore, which is a hard habit to break when it used to be, you can share. For everyone who's back in school, how are lunches and things like that being handled?
For us, the lunch is brought in, and the kids eat lunch in their home-based class.
For us, there's an option to eat school cafeteria food. You can order it in like catered. However, we've been packing his lunch, and we can only do that for so long, because how long can you do a turkey and cheese or peanut butter and jelly or Lunchable, which he's been eating since kindergarten, so he's not a huge fan of. He's in 6th grade now. So we prefer to pack his lunch, and there would be a possibility of occasional eating from the cafeteria. And they do not eat in their lunch room or in their home-based class. They eat in the gym. And apparently I don't know if they're spaced out. I'm not sure how that is, but the class size is 12 kids total. So I'm sure they can figure out a way of how to social distance properly. But I feel comfortable with packing his lunch opposed to eating from the school. And then of course, yes, the sharing aspect is a little nerve-wracking for sure. For even as just adults, you know, we love to share because sharing is caring. And it is hard to break that habit as well for us. Or if you make something and you want to share it, people might be apprehensive to, and it's nothing personal. It's just you have to take into consideration that there's a virus, unfortunately. So that's where we are.
Now, in Carroll County, we're not allowed to bring our water bottles home. They actually had them, and we put our names out and shoe vinyl with their names on them, and they keep them in class. But they go to the cafeteria and get their lunch in class. But there's only
I know there is a storm going on out where Christy is, and I think that's why she's having a hard time staying with us.
There's a storm in Alexandria. There's a big storm here too.
There's a storm all the way across Virginia tonight.
And I would just like to piggyback off Miss Davina in respect to hand washing. Even having an 11-year-old, you know, hand washing has been a severe problem in our house for a long time about washing before you eat, washing after you eat. It's been a really serious problem. Now more than ever, it's like, look, if you have been outside this house, as soon as you come in, so I've been training my son as soon as he comes in the house, and I do it too, to wash our hands, no matter where we've been. Even if, you know, if we've been anywhere in the community, as soon as we walk in the house, we're washing our hands. And before we eat, of course, we're washing our hands. And then after we eat, we're washing our hands. I think even if your child's not in school, having that preparation for them is pretty important, just like the masks. They're not in school, but if they do get back in school, we're not going to go back to school and there's not going to be masks. So, and there's still going to be the possibility of having contact with someone that did have the virus. So keeping that in mind in respect to, you know, having the masks worn at home and practicing that, and also practicing best skills as far as washing for 20 seconds. And I tell my son 30 seconds. We also got a timer for him to brush his teeth. And so we're using that same timer he's not always the best as far as how long a certain time frame is. Time doesn't exist for him. He has ADHD. And so when he washes his hands for 20 seconds, it's sometimes 10. And so we've found that a timer helps with brushing teeth properly and also washing hands for the right amount of time. So that would be one of my tips that I feel like could help a child get into that routine, that when they are going to school or when they finally go back to school, they've already have practiced it and know how to implement it and aren't giving a teacher kind of third degree of, why do I have to do this? I haven't been doing this at home. It's going to be a practice that they're familiar with and that they also feel comfortable with, and the safety and hygiene and concerns of other people.
That's a really good tip. I like that you're doing it along with him, so you're modeling that good behavior, so he knows it's not just you're pushing this on him, but mom's doing it too, and dad's doing it too, and it's just the new way.
It's the new normal, basically.
Right.
Because it's one thing to wash your hands, it's another thing to wash your hands properly.
Yes, we've watched several videos. Sorry, Miss Davina, go ahead.
No, it's fine. What I was going to say is, for us, I have visuals up in my at the sinks, and it's, I mean, everybody that comes in sees them, whether it's an adult or the students, so that it shows the hand washing. And there's, it's a little animated type looking thing, but how to wash. I like the timer, the sand timer, because that a lot of kids don't have the sense of time, which is perfect, because it's like, when that's done, we can be done. And the other one that I push, and I have been pushing for, because I'm a visual person, is you got to make bubbles. You can't just do this. You've got to have bubbles. You've got to make bubbles. So little tips, and it's helpful. But again, if you guys can do it at home, wow, that's great, because it becomes normal. Versus the wearing of the mask, I totally get. We have a lot of kids that are sensory, and it's just hard to put that on. But there are other ones. And there's a tip, I haven't found it yet myself, but there is a mask basket that you can wear. It's plastic, and it's a little basket that you put between your mouth and your mask, so that you can breathe and talk better through it. I don't know how some of our sensory kids would do, but supposedly it's on Amazon. I just heard about it. So that may be something that people want to look into, because the mask, with it being right on your lips, a lot of people don't like that, depending on what kind you have. So that was just a tip that I got today from a parent. So maybe it will work.
Yeah, and in regards to that I like that hand washing, how to. We also have signs up in everywhere next to his placemat, in his bathroom, in our bathroom, and in the kitchen. When he first opens the refrigerator, there's a sign that we both made with colored pencils, and we drew in stuff that says, please wash your hands. So when you go into our bathroom, even if my friend comes over to stop by, it says that. So people, it's not just there for our son, it's there for everybody that comes in. It's like, underneath, I just want to sign thanks management, like before, the whole thing that you see, it's like, wow, we're not in a restaurant, but it feels like it when it says employees must wash hands. Well, no, anyone that comes into this house must wash their hands, because that's how COVID spreads. And so that has helped him remember, and he's just getting into that habit of, I've got to wash my hands, I've got to wash my hands. But we've watched probably like 3 or 4 videos of how COVID is contracted. So we've watched things about how it is, how it spreads. But then we're watching the importance of washing hands too. He's, like I said, he's going to be 12 in October. He's in sixth grade. However, this is something that none of us, I haven't seen in my entire life, that I've had to worry about. I mean, I know that there's other viruses, and there's the flu, and there's other things that you can contract, and I get it, but something like this, to this degree, has never happened in our lifetime. And so we are also learning as adults, and like Nicole mentioned earlier, like us modeling as parents or teachers, like that's how our kids learn. Just coming in and washing my hands, like I'm washing my hands after I check the mail too. I'm an OCD person in general. So prior to COVID, I was already like, my hands are dry because I'm always washing them. So it's worse now. However, he used to call me a germaphobe, but now, fine, call me that. I am going to do what I have to do to protect myself. And then in regards to tips for not only washing hands, but reminding our children, every child I've seen that wants to play, and interact, they don't remember, like, touching is not allowed. No touching anything. You can't share balls. You can't share things. Kids don't understand that. no matter how old they are. But the more that we practice that with them and speak about that, or try to encourage them not to touch each other, the better. I know that is extremely difficult, and I get it. I remember what it's like being a kid. Not only that, a kid that has ADHD, they're not going to remember that they're not allowed to touch another child. However, the more that we support them and mention it and encourage them to just be mindful of it, almost like an everyday thing as a reminder, it could help. You know, it could help. I don't know how to prevent that. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to do what they do. If they get sick at this point, how I feel, he gets sick, I get sick, my husband gets sick, and we just, you know, do the best that we can as parents. I think going to a private school, having this smaller setting, and not learning virtually was going to be the best decision for our child who has an IEP. Also, having 2 jobs as a peer recovery specialist and a parent support for youth in crisis, there was not going to be any way possible that I could be also a stay-at-home mom, to assist with educating my son. And I realized that in March, but it was even more evident when he was closing the computer on his tutor during the summer. He was already done with, he didn't want to do what she asked. So the easy way was just to close the computer on her. Another tip I would have for parents is come up with a plan prior to those things happening. So if the student is closing the computer early, like just checks out, moves away from the camera, and just come up with a plan of how you're going to address that. I mean, I know some schools virtually haven't started yet, so you might not know what your child's going to do or respond to that. However, with virtual tutoring and only having a few short months of virtual tutoring, he was really not shy to show the tutor how he felt about learning. And so, you know, in school, people can literally just walk out. Most kids don't do that. There's probably a write-up where you're going to have to stay after school, but virtual learning, it's really just easy to turn off the TV and shut it down. So I think having a plan with your child and with your teacher might be beneficial.
They're good tips, Bianca. So we know this time of transitioning back to school has been more stressful than years past. But what's something that's positive that's come out of all this change?
I mean, for me, to be honest, my son, I'm a former foster parent. So we didn't adopt him yet, but we are hoping to. He has lived with us for almost 7 years. We have custodialship of him now, and he had some attachment disorders he had an attachment disorder. COVID has increased his participation in therapy because he's doing it from virtual, and he's doing it in our home setting, in our environment where he feels comfortable. But also I can now have separation from him for longer than 5 minutes or longer than 10 minutes. And due to COVID, we just spent the last 6 months together, like I said. So he sees me every day. He knows I'm here. He knows our relationship and our attachment's secure. He knows I'm not going to leave him. So I have 2 celebrations, and one is being increased participation in with his therapist with TFCBT, and having a more secure attachment with me, and being able to realize that mom is here, mom's here to stay. And he also is getting a chance to see what I do in my job, in my jobs, and see how much I work. You know, this whole week, I told him if he did a great job at school, I would get him a special treat. We would go to like Baskin Robbins. And so today he says, Mom, you do such a good job at work. I think you get a treat too. because you are really good at your job and you help people all the time. And so he's had a long time of seeing what I do. And I think he has maybe a newfound respect for the fact that I am a working mom, but also have other duties, doing laundry, cooking, cleaning. He's seeing all the stuff that he's here. So he's like, now he knows what I'm doing all day when he's at school. It's not like I'm just sitting here taking a nap. You know, he has the visual of what's happening. So this COVID has changed lives drastically, but this has also changed our lives for the better.
That's great, Bianca.
Thank you.
Has anyone else been able to find something positive out of all of this?
We have one small positive that has come out the last about 4 to 5 weeks. All of our polls have closed, so none of them have opened, which was a big activity for us in the summer. But back at in July, our bowling alley has made some changes, and after speaking with them, I felt comfortable enough to sign us up for the Kids Bowl Free program, so we can go each day that the bowling alley is open and bowl 2 games and have very little cost, just the cost for rental of shoes. So that's been positive, and it gets us out of the house, and they're air conditioning. And we also take drives. We're here in the Shenandoah Valley, and we are right at the foot of Shenandoah National Park. So we've gone up there and just look at the waterfalls, the wildlife. We've driven down the Blue Ridge Parkway. We've taken the Augusta County Road Tour. We've gone up to the Allegheny Highlands and just kind of picked up lunch, and it was good.
That's like sweet serenity. It's like COVID. What's COVID? We live in the straight
Wonderful.
peace and the nature. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And then I think lastly, now that schools are, well, at least for you guys, all back in school, is there anything you want other parents to know as a parent, as a teacher, as, just as our kids go back? Is there something you really want other parents to know?
I know in our last get together, there were several parents that mentioned seeing some regression since the closures in their kids. But it's important to know or to be specific in what type of regression. For instance, time management, transitions, that kind of thing. And be as specific as you can. And then once school goes back, then to be able to tell the school exactly what you're seeing and why.
For me, what I would hope for parents that are coming and students that are coming, that I know that many of the teachers I know here and in other states, we are doing everything to keep your kids safe. We can't eradicate COVID-19, but we are trying to mitigate everything so that, we're doing everything in my classroom. The kids stay with me, their lunch comes to me, that stuff. We're doing everything we possibly can because we love your kids. They're our kids too. So for us, we are doing everything we can. And please, if your child looks like they're not feeling well, it's okay if they stay home. I know in the past that, sometimes it's like, oh, they just have the sniffles, send them. Please don't. Because it might not just be the sniffles. Nowadays, a fever can mean so much more versus, oh, we're tired. Their body's just fighting off a little bug. It's no big deal. And I know most parents aren't going to send them, but sometimes you feel like you have to because you've got to work. And I get that. I've been that mom. It's been tough. So I totally understand that. But we are doing our very best for our kids. And when I say our kids, I mean yours and mine. We want them to be well. We want to be well, and we want this to work. So, and to remember, we're all trying. When I'm on Zoom with you, please be kind to me. It is not my thing. I am not from the Zoom generation. I'm learning, and the kids usually know more than me. And they may tell me, Ms. Dano, push the button. Is this one? It's like, well, thank you. Good. One of us knows which button to push. So we are trying. And I know my other teacher friends have said, you know, there's lots of stuff out there. We're discovering more things. We're all getting together as teachers, whether it's Facebook or Pinterest, and saying, hey, this worked for virtual. Anybody else try this? Or how can I do this? So those are positives. I mean, we're not together, but we're getting together through virtual, trying to help our kids because we want them all to learn, whether it's in person or not in person. So that's my positives.
Thank you. So as a teacher, would you say that they're starting slower this year, just getting used to all the new changes, getting used to everything before they really start
I think so for some of it. I know that I've only had students for a week. We really prepped as teachers because things kept changing. And for those of us that are in special ed land, whether you're the parent or the teacher, this year and this COVID have really keep changing things on what we're doing, writing in IEPs, how we can meet our kids' goals, how the parents can help us meet their goals, whatnot. So, I mean, we've had a lot of fun this week. They've come back, the kids, and the biggest part for us was them trying to figure out who that was because they're not used to seeing this. It's, you know, where's the rest of you? So that's been fun. And just getting to say, hey, what have you been doing? And seeing people on the drives that we're, you know, out in the country here, I've got the Blue Ridge Mountains right behind me. So yeah, it's, you know, fun to go and get out and still be away. So they're excited. They are slower doing it. Most of the schools around me are not even starting their virtual till September. Some of them we were all supposed to start around August, but different districts are pushing back because things were changing. And it's like, wait, maybe we have to do it different. So the uncertainty, I think the kids are feeling good because they're in school now. Because we've been talking about it going, hey, you're going back, you're going back, you're going up. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. That uncertainty was bad for them, but that we just wanted them to be safe as many districts. So yeah, I think it's slow and steady, and the transition, like you had said before, it's hard to get back up at the crack of dawn for them and us and not show up in my PJs to teach because nobody could tell. Yeah, the students, it's like, you have to put your pants on now, guys. You can't come to class in your PJs anymore. So that kind of stuff but they liked it. You know, we're back. It's familiarity, routine, getting back. We know what we're going to do. Like your daughter said, I can do it at school. I show up, I know what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, the routine is coming.
And for a parent who hasn't sent their children back, that's really good to hear that they're happy to be back, that they like the routine, that they're okay with the changes. So then before we part for the evening, does anyone have any final tips or anything they wanted to share?
I just had my first parent teacher conference today after 4 days. And I would just like to remind everyone, parents and teachers, but also not just the parents to the teacher, but also the parent-child relationship, that in this time, we're all in the same thing together. We're all a community and a team that's, going through similar things, maybe not identical, but very similar. And it's important to remember that because we're all going through all this together, that the changes can be challenging for everyone, a parent, a teacher, and a child. And so with saying that, when the teacher talked to me today, she said, I really need to remember to give these children grace. However, we as parents need to remember to give these children grace. Our children have possibly not been taught that, but it goes back to several other conversations about just washing our hands, or we are the models and the coaches of our children, and we are the mirror of them. So as much grace that we can give our children, maybe they will reflect that towards their teachers. And, you know, just trying to also be understanding of what these teachers have possibly had to prepare for and train for, and give them grace as well, because there's a lot of things that they're doing that they've never had to do before, and taking the responsibility of keeping our children safe. And on that note, it takes a very special person to be a teacher. Teachers are not teachers because of finances. They're not teachers because of income. And coming from a service provider who works with youth in crisis, when you are in the service of community, it's very rare that you do this type of job or work for finances and income. So I would just like to point that out, that, you know, they are putting their lives in danger for our children. And so we are all doing our best to keep ourselves safe and keep our children safe. As children, you know, they don't know what social distancing means, and we have to keep that in mind. And do the best we can as parents to support them in that, and do the best we can as supporting our teachers as well.
Absolutely.
I'd like to share final thought for the evening is know who your team is and utilize those folks. For us, we've had several folks through telehealth and also in person. Our pediatrician, our primary care provider, our developmental pediatrician, the folks at REACH, the folks at the CSB, our Medicaid insurance provider. We are assigned an RN that checks in with us once a month. Had to remember to get him online with everything that's been going on with us. So figure out who your team is that knows you and your family, and really get their input so that will help you as best they can.
That's right. It's going to take a lot of us to get through this, but together we'll definitely make it through okay.
And it takes a village. I think that's what Cindy's trying
Yes.
to
Right.
point out. And it's not just we are by ourselves with this. We are in this together.
Yes, we are.
All right. So I just want to thank all of you for joining me tonight to share this information about going back to school. I know, like I said before, as the parent of children who haven't gone back, listening to what the first weeks have been like for you has been very settling. I feel a little more at ease knowing that a lot of things have already been thought about and put in place. And then whenever anyone gets to watch this, if you have any other questions about going back to school or other school help that you need, IEPs, 504s, any advocacy help, things like that, you can always reach out to NAMI Virginia, to the Virginia Family Network. And I'm sure my email address is going to be linked into this also. So you can always reach out to me and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. And again, thank you ladies for helping me share the back to school with everyone.